Good and gracious God, we have gathered here this evening to honor and serve the officers for their outstanding service in the performance of their duties. Through diligence and hard work, they have excelled in making arrests and seizures. Tonight, we also honor those officers who have risked their own lives in order to protect others from hurt, harm, and danger. We thank you, O God, and we ask you to please bless these officers that we honor on this night. Be with them, be with their families, and guide them as they patrol the streets of our city. We pray for the citizens and all the employees that have gathered also in diligence and in dedication. Their assistance to the police officers is greatly appreciated. We make our prayer in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Good evening and welcome to the Metropolitan Police Department's awards ceremony. I'm Kay Quinn from KSDK News Channel 5, and I'm honored to be here tonight as we recognize the outstanding service of police officers and civilian employees by presenting the Chief's Letter of Commendation and Length of Service Awards. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to tonight's platform guests. I'd ask that you please hold your applause until I finish introducing everyone seated on the stage. Commissioner Richard Gray, President, Board of Police Commissioners. Colonel D. Samuel Dotson III, Chief of Police. Lieutenant Colonel Alfred Adkins, Assistant Chief of Police, Bureau of Investigation and Support. Lieutenant Colonel Reggie Harris, Bureau of Auxiliary Services. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Nishero, Bureau of Professional Standards, and Police Chaplain Reverend Carl W. McDowell, Jr. The commanders seated on stage will assist us later in the program as we award the Chief's Letter of Commendation. I'd also like to acknowledge the commanders seated in the audience to my left. Please give them a round of applause. Before we present tonight's awards, Chief Dotson would like to say a few words. He'll be immediately followed by Commissioner Richard Gray, who will say a few words on behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners. Chief.
Thank you, Kay, for hosting us this evening. We appreciate that. And thank you for being with us tonight to honor the 38 or so commissioned and civilian employees who will receive the Chief's Letter of Commendation this evening. These individuals were nominated by their commanders for exceptional performance, and tonight we also honor publicly employees who reached milestones of service with the department. And for those of you that have been to ceremonies before and to the officers, this is a little bit of a departure from our normal ceremonies. We are very frequently use Harris Stowe State College, State University, as a home for these ceremonies, but I wanted to do something new. I wanted to get out to the community. I wanted to bring the police department to new venues, and this one is very special to me. As we're going to hear tonight about these acts of heroism and bravery from these officers that represent the very best that the police department has to offer for situations where they've risked their lives and risked their lives to save lives of others, I think it's very important that we take a minute to reflect about everything that's going on in our city and in our community. Tonight is very special to me because Metro High School is where I graduated from. I graduated from this high school a couple years ago. And although it's in a different building and it's moved from its home at Kings Highway in Washington to here, it's still very dear to my heart. This school, it represents the very best in education, and not just education in the city of St. Louis, but education in the state and around the country. For those of you that don't know, Metro High School was the first magnet high school founded in the city of St. Louis in 1972. Its principal served for 25 plus years, the founder, Betty Wheeler, and did an excellent job of creating a school without walls, a school that used the city's resources, used the city as its tool to teach its students. When we had classes, we wouldn't always be in the same building. We'd go to the Art Museum and the Science Center. We'd go to other high schools. We'd go to Forest Park. We went to a variety of places, and I got to explore the city and learn the city at a very young age and appreciate the wealth that is here. But Metro represents the best in education, as I said. It's the #1 high school in the state. It's ranked higher than any other high school in the state, and it's in the top 100 high schools in the nation. And that's a tremendous accomplishment and a credit to not only the St. Louis public school system and the challenges that they face, but to the students and the faculty and the teachers here. So some of them here this evening, and I want to applaud you for the great job that you do with the students here. So this is an opportunity for us to recognize the very best that the police department has to offer in an environment that represents the very best in education that the city has to offer. So to those recipients of the award tonight, congratulations. You have my heartfelt thanks for everything that you do, my respect, and it's an honor to serve with you every day, and I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rich Gray, and I'm the president of the St. Louis Police Board. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to say a few words. You know, the question was asked to me the other day, and that was, why did you accept this role and this responsibility and become a part of this team? And I thought about it, and it didn't take long to think about it. It was really understanding that this team has been the team that has been the backbone of the city of St. Louis for years. They have driven us in such a positive direction over time that it was easy for me to say that I wanted to be a part of it. And to see the insurgence that has happened and to see the growth that is starting to take place in just a short period of time of how they are recommitting and rededicating themselves to being the best that they could possibly be, it's really kind of fun just sitting back and watching it. And watching the impact that they're going to have as we go forward, and knowing that they're going to make changes that's going to improve not only the places where we walk and we live and we eat. It's really just an enjoyable piece to be a part of. And for all of the hard work and the dedication that you've done to make a difference, I thank you. Because it's those differences that you make that separates the individuals that can feel comfortable about being able to go out and walk their dogs at 10:30 at night and knowing that they have their back covered. See, I live downtown. I live in a loft. We moved there back in 2004. And I was telling the story that when we first moved there, it was my wife and a few other people in the building and the homeless. And so we've seen downtown grow. And we've seen the impact of individuals being there. And the reason that they're there, simply put, is because of you. Because they know that they can feel comfortable about what they're doing. And that comfort is what we look forward to as we continue to grow forward. And I am so proud to be a part of this leadership team to helping making a difference. So thank you for all you've done for us.
We begin the awards presentation tonight with the Chief's Letter of Commendation. This award honors outstanding policing and acts of bravery that have helped make the St. Louis community a better place to live. I'd like to call on the commanders who nominated tonight's recipients to help tell their stories. Please welcome to the podium Captain Kenneth Cagle, Commander of the 4th District.
I'm Captain Kenneth Cagle, Commander of the 4th District, and I nominated Police Officer Richard Newcomb for a Chief's Letter of Commendation. On June the 24th of 2012, a call for service was broadcast for a purse snatching. Knowing it was a busy Saturday night and district officers were responding to meet the victims, Officer Newcomb, who was responding to a separate call for service, adjusted his travel route through the area where the purse snatching suspect was last seen. Officer Newcomb located an individual matching his broadcast description of the suspect and maintained surveillance until additional manpower arrived, at which time Officer Newcomb was able to arrest without incident. The suspect was positively identified, the victim's property was recovered. Warrants were later issued for 2 counts of robbery first degree against the suspect who had previously served 8 years in prison for a different robbery. Congratulations to Officer Newcomb.
Good evening, I'm Major Joseph Spees. I nominated Officers Ryan Baroni, George Henry for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On August 30, 2012, there was a broadcast for a carjacking just occurred by 3 armed suspects. Officers Henry and Ryan Baroni were responding to the area of the carjacking when they observed the vehicle occupied by 3 suspects traveling past them. Officers Henry and Baroni activated their emergency lights and siren and attempted to stop the vehicle, but it subsequently fled at a high rate of speed. Officers Henry and Baroni pursued the vehicle until it stopped, and the 3 suspects immediately fled on foot. Officers Henry and Baroni searched for the suspects in tall vegetation, locating one of them and placing him under arrest. The suspect stated that he and 2 others had stolen the vehicle at gunpoint with the intention of using it to transport them to the south side to shoot at a rival gang member. Warrants were subsequently issued in this case for robbery first degree, armed criminal action, and felony resisting arrests against the suspect, who is caught by Officers Baroni and Henry. Congratulations, Officers Ryan Baroni and George Henry. I also nominated Lieutenant Dan Zarek, Sergeant Dino Orlando, Police Officers Michael Clymer, Ammon Figgs, and George Henry for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On October 9, 2012, there was a broadcast for a vehicle taken in an armed robbery by 2 suspects, with the description of the carjacked vehicle being provided. A short time later, after the broadcast, Sergeant Dino Orlando observed the carjacked vehicle and began following it, requesting backup officers so that they could safely initiate a felony car stop. As Officers Mike Clymer, Ammon Figgs, and George Henry arrived, Sergeant Orlando attempted to stop the car, however, it fled at a high rate of speed. As Sergeant Orlando and Officers Clymer, Figgs, and Henry pursued the vehicle, Lieutenant Dan Zarek, who was monitoring the pursuit, deployed spike strips on the path of the carjacked vehicle. The pursuit then ended, with the suspects bailing out of the car and fleeing on foot. As they attempted to flee on foot, they were quickly apprehended by the officers. The gun used in this crime was recovered at the scene. The juvenile suspect was held on 2 counts of robbery first degree, armed criminal action, and resisting arrest. The adult suspect was charged with 2 counts of robbery first, armed criminal action, and resisting arrest. Congratulations to the sergeant and the officers in this case. I also nominated Sergeant Mark McMurray, Police Officers Matt Frichtel, Ryan Murphy, Ryan Kirshner, Justin Robin, all for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On November 10th, Officers Matthew Frichtel, Ryan Murphy, along with Sergeant Mark McMurray, responded to a call for a robbery in progress. Officer Frichtel broadcast the description of the suspects involved. Officers Kirshner and Justin Robin were canvassing the area when they observed a person matching the description of one of the suspects. The victim positively identified this suspect as one of the 3 persons who robbed him. Sergeant McMurray and Officer Murphy continued to canvass the area and observed another person matching the description of one of the suspects. This individual fled into an area residence and discarded a handgun into the bathroom with the officers in foot pursuit of him. He was then taken into custody. During a search of the house, officers discovered the female suspect in the robbery, another loaded handgun, and the victim's property and narcotics. The individual who ran into the residence was determined not to be involved in the robbery, but was charged with UUW and CCW. The other 2 individuals were charged with this robbery, and charges were issued for robbery first degree, armed criminal action, and UUW. Congratulations to the sergeant and officers. I also nominated Sergeant Jesse Harris, Officers Jacob Stein, Justin Robin, Ryan Kirshner, and Jarrett Neff for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On October 19th, Sergeant Jesse Harris, Officer Jacob Stein responded to a call for a holdup in progress in District 7. Upon arrival, the victim, who was a cab driver, stated he was just robbed at gunpoint and pointed out the vehicle the suspects were occupying. Sergeant Harris and Officer Stein followed the vehicle, which fled until the 2 suspects stopped and then ran on foot. Officer Stein pursued the subject at length through several yards, over several fences, and eventually lost sight of him. Shortly after broadcasting the suspect's description, Officers Ryan Kirshner and Justin Robin located and arrested the suspect. Sergeant Harris pursued the other suspect on foot into the wooded area, where he was joined by Officer Jarrett Neff. They located the suspect, who resisted arrest. After a struggle, he was placed under arrest. A computer check revealed one of the suspects was already wanted for a robbery first degree. Both suspects were charged with robbery first degree and armed criminal action. Congratulations to the sergeants and officers in this case. And the last one I also nominated officers Mark Paschnik, Adrian Patton, Ryan Murphy, Jarrett Neff, Thomas Carroll, Justin Robin, Mike Roth, and K-9 Beal for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On November 12th, Officer Mark Paschnik, Officers Adrian Patton, and Jarrett Neff observed a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed that had been broadcast earlier in the day as a vehicle taken in an armed robbery. The officers pursued the vehicle until it struck a building, and the suspects fled on foot into a dense wooded area. Officers Ryan Murphy, Tom Carroll, and Justin Robin arrived and established the perimeter. K-9 Officer Mike Roth arrived with K-9 Beal to track the suspects. K-9 Beal began to alert to a person after several orders to surrender. The suspect refused. Beal was released and found the juvenile suspect hiding in tall grass. He was arrested without further incident. The officers then searched the nearby vacant building and found an additional suspect, another juvenile, who was arrested without incident. Inside the suspect's vehicle, the officers discovered a stolen handgun which was used in this armed robbery. Both suspects were held by juvenile courts. Congratulations to the officers in this case as well.
As the Commander of Special Operations for the Chief's Letter of Commendation, I nominated the following: Sergeant Anthony Boone, Police Officers Richard Edwards, Michael Cohen, Marcus Alston, Luke Kalal, Lucas Roethlisberger, Leah Toti, Cortez Miles, Detectives Michael Swartz, and Michael Cummings for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. On June 15, 2012, Officer Richard Edwards, Officer Luke Kalal, and Officer Lucas Roethlisberger responded to a shooting and located an adult male and a 10-year-old juvenile innocent victim that had been shot in a drive-by shooting, we believe. The officers broadcast a description of the suspects and their vehicle. Detective Michael Swartz and Detective Ronald Alt responded to the area in search of the suspects. Sergeant Anthony Boone responded to the area and supervised the scene, and was advised by Officers Cortez Miles and Leah Toti that they had received a call for shots fired into an auto. This vehicle was shot into as it was trying to escape from the drive-by shooting scene. In the earlier shooting, witnesses were able to provide the suspect's name and address in the shots fired auto incident. Officer Michael Cohen and Officer Marcus Alston responded to the address and observed the suspect's vehicle in both shootings. A search of a residence that the suspects had ran into during a high pursuit was produced. 4 firearms, 3 suspects were arrested. Detectives Michael Cummings and Sergeant Boone interviewed the 3 suspects who admitted their involvement in the shootings.
Our former commander, Lieutenant Angela Kuntz, could not be with us tonight, but she nominated Dr. Karen Pryder, Jennifer Shaneholtz, Eric Hall, Sarah Custis, Jenna Oaks-Smith, and police officers Harry Collins and Carl Gottschalk for the Chief's Letter of Commendation when she was our commander. Between July of 2009 and February of 2010, 3 St. Louis women were brutally attacked and raped. Officer Gottschalk collected numerous pieces of important evidence at the first crime scene. Officer Harry Collins responded and collected several pieces of critical evidence at the third crime scene. Once the evidence was conveyed to the laboratory, Criminalist 2 Eric Hall and LIMS Linnell Administrator Jenna Oaks-Smith worked diligently conducting biological screening and analyzing the recovered evidence to obtain DNA samples. After this biological screening, those samples were examined by Criminalist 2 Karen Pryder and DNA Technical Leader Jennifer Shaneholtz. They used those samples to obtain a DNA profile for a suspect. Criminalist 2 Sarah Custis then entered that DNA profile into CODIS and tracked the cases until discovering a positive hit to a suspect. The suspect was subsequently arrested and successfully prosecuted in the 3 attacks and rapes. Congratulations to our scientists and our officers for making our city a safer place.
Good evening. I'm David Marzullo from the Public Information Unit. I nominated Sergeant Kathryn Dennis for the Chief's Letter of Commendation. In the past several years, the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department has made tremendous strides in reaching and fostering positive relationships within the community. This effort has not been more prevalent than with the Citizens Academy and the work of Sergeant Kathryn Dennis. In 2009, Sergeant Dennis was selected to develop, promote, and administer the Citizens Academy, a program that had once existed but had faded. That first class had a student enrollment of 30 citizens. Since that first class in 2009, Sergeant Dennis has organized and administered 6 Citizens Academies and graduated more than 200 citizens. The efforts of Sergeant Dennis in the area of community outreach have assisted in the transparency of the department and have fostered positive relationships with the community. Congratulations.
We will also recognize a number of employees tonight, both civilian and commissioned, who have reached milestones in their careers with the department. The following commissioned officers reached 40 years of service this year. Congratulations to Lieutenant Michael Anderson of the 6th District and Sergeant Larry Richards of the 9th District. Take a picture. One civilian employee also reached the 40 years of service milestone. Congratulations to Deborah Sayas of the Information Technology Unit. Additionally, 2 commissioned officers reached 35 years of service this year. Congratulations to Sergeant Mark Murphy of the 9th District and Officer Matthew Haas of Central Patrol. And unfortunately, I think Lieutenant Anderson was the only one present tonight. The other service award recipients were unable to be here, but let's have one more big round of applause for everyone who was on the team. Congratulations to everyone who was honored tonight, and thank you for your service.